with coaching. When you step into a space like that, you have this multi-dimensional space to have an existential conversation that's not censored, that's not controlled. There's no mandatory reporting or recording, nothing like that. And there's nothing that the coach needs from you. And so I feel like it's just such a clean and pure experience for people to really, truly think for themselves and identify, what is this human experience? What does it mean for me? What is most important to me? And what legacy do I want to leave behind? And when I get to the end of my life, how will I know that I lived my life well? And so we facilitate that same conversation that we believe is happening in the psychedelic space so that a person can truly crack open.
Welcome to Modern Psychedelics, where we explore the transformations made possible through intentional engagement with psychedelics. This podcast will help you integrate high consciousness living into the everyday and deepen the work ignited by altered states. You can expect balanced and grounded conversations around therapeutic, ceremonial, and recreational containers. My name is Lana Pribic, your host and guide. I am a 3-time certified professional life coach, and I work with people who want to integrate higher levels of consciousness into their daily lives so they can feel more peace, fulfillment, and connection. After all, our time here on Earth is so brief, so let's make sure we're really living. The song you hear is called Lost Horizon by Peace Sign. All right, let's journey. Hello, my beautiful friends. I am going to try to keep this intro short, although I can't make any promises because I have so much I want to say, but it's literally Tuesday night, a few nights before this episode is launching, and just finished editing this episode that we want to get out for you guys in case any of you out there want to join me in the Being True to You March cohort for the coach training. That's what this episode is all about. And that's why this is being recorded just a few days before being released, which is really rare. But yeah, just some personal updates for me. I just got back from 3 weeks in Costa Rica. I was at Iboga Wellness Center once again. I was there in service, helping out at a couple of the retreats. So grateful for the opportunity. I'm feeling really grounded, really balanced, and really centered. Just so much love for Iboga and to be able to give back to the medicine that really changed my life. Related to Iboga is our guest today, Deanne Adamson, who actually started her journey with psychedelics working at an ibogaine clinic. Deanne Adamson is really inspiring. I feel just really blessed to have been able to sit down with her and also to be able to share this conversation with you. She is the CEO and founder of Being True to You. She received a master's degree in mental health counseling, yet took the path of coaching and coach training. Starting in 2010, Deanne founded the first preparation and integration coaching company for psychedelic therapies. Through years of direct experience, Deanne has laid the groundwork to support people's personal transformation from within their own home and by their own efforts. Through her and her team's experience providing preparation and integration coaching to thousands of people using psychedelic therapies and holistic practices, Deanne has gained extensive knowledge about coaching people through the challenges and suffering that are part of this human experience. Deanne has built the tenets of change into these coaching models to bring the mind, body, and spirit into alignment with the true self. It is her mission and vision to help over 1 million people use life's inevitable hardships and human suffering and hard times as a catalyst for the transformation of the true self. As you can see, Deanne and I are on a very, very similar mission in life, and I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. I really appreciate how steady her voice is, how grounded she is as a human, and how in touch she is with the reality of what it's like to be a human going through many hardships in life. In this episode, Deanne shares with us her very inspirational story of starting Being True to You 14 years ago, what Being True to You is, and we talk extensively about the coach training program. So there are many psychedelic coach training programs out there. Many are popping up, and I have had my eye on Being True to You for many years. And that is because a lot of the advanced medicine practitioners and guides in my network actually recommend Being True to You coaches, Levi included, who I was just visiting at Iboga Wellness Center. And that is because they've been around the longest. They have the most solid reputation, and they provide a really solid 5-month training for their coaches. As you guys know, I am already a certified professional life coach through IPEC, and I've already gone through pretty extensive life coach training. However, I really had a desire to up-level my skill set so that I had more psychedelic specific tools. I feel like with the podcast, with my life's work, I'm just getting deeper and deeper into the path of service on the psychedelic path. And I'm basically ingraining myself more and more deeply into this path as life goes on. So doing this training was a no-brainer for me. And I'm so excited to be partnering up with Being True to You, going through their coach training and sharing my entire journey with you. Another thing that I really love about this program is that it's so accessible financially. So hang on until the end of the episode where we share all the details about the program, what you can expect, the transformation that's awaiting you by getting trained as a coach, by going through this program. And trust me, just going through a coach training program is completely worth the price of admission because I was definitely not the same person after my first coach training. And I'm pretty much expecting the same thing for this one. So I can't wait. And last but not least, on the topic of coaching, I would like to invite anyone out there who is listening and wants to apply to get coached by me in my one-on-one coaching program. I do have a spot left for March enrollment. So if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, or if you're just new, a lot of my clients actually sign up with me after hearing just one episode. Either way, if you're interested in learning more about my coaching program and want to get coached by me, you can learn about that by visiting modernpsychedelics.net/coaching or visiting the link in the show notes. And I want to share a testimonial from a recent client that just finished that is just so beautiful and so touching. And I just want to let you guys know the real deep transformation that is possible within this program. So Laura P. says, working with Lana has changed and impacted my life for the long haul and will forever be marked as a pivotal chapter in my personal growth journey. I started her coaching program coming off intense EMDR and a lot of therapy. While I believe those set the stage, the work I was able to experience and accomplish with Lana solidified steps on my healing journey and put learnings into action. I got to know and trust myself on a whole other level. Before coaching, I was stuck, clenched, and frozen in my life and couldn't find a way out of it. My nervous system was constantly reactive and I was living out of survival. This is all unlocked now. I find myself more grounded, rooted in choice and awareness, and creating not only visions of what I want to experience in the future, but the steps to make them a reality. Every area of my life has been impacted. Lana's unique approach helped me integrate lessons from not only her program and training, but also years of therapy and healing work. We focused on inner states of being, blockages, levels of consciousness, and energy, all foundational aspects in any true long-lasting integration. The way she engaged, asked questions, helped me go inward, and taught me to trust my intuition, fostered a process that became transformative. I'm forever grateful. Laura, thank you so much for this beautiful review, and you did so beautifully in the time that we spent together. So there you have it. Yeah, if you would like to work with me as your coach, please reach out and fill out the coaching application. And for those of you who are actually thinking of becoming trained and certified as a coach, this episode with Deanne from Being True to You is such a treat. I can't wait for you to hear it and explore this world. And who knows, maybe I will see you in the March cohort that is starting in just a week, but you have about a month or so to join us. So yeah, if you're interested, please don't be shy to DM me and let me know that you're joining us. I can't wait to connect with you. Enjoy this episode and please share it with anyone in your network who might benefit from this information. Sending you lots and lots of love, and I'll catch you on the other side. Deanne Adamson, welcome to the show. It's so exciting to have you here today.
Oh, Lana, thank you so much. It's great to be here. What a pleasure.
I'm really looking forward to chatting with you because I think we both just have such an appreciation for coaching as a profession and as a career path and being equipped with real tools and tangible tools to perform as a coach. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to learning from you. Please introduce yourself to the audience and just share the work that you are doing in the world.
Well, thank you, Lana, so much for having me. And thank you for everyone who's listening into this podcast. It's a pleasure to be here. We like what we do and we like to be able to share it. We see the importance of our work, not just in the psychedelic therapy realm, but in the larger mental health realm in general. So I'm Deanne Adamson. I'm from Colorado. I live here now. 14 years ago, in 2010, I started a company called Being True to You. Formerly, I was a mental health counselor. And before that, I worked in judicial advocacy and nonprofits and just helping people however I could from different sectors, and eventually worked my way up to a master's into a mental health counseling position. And from there, I felt something was missing. And so I took a big leap of faith. Actually, it's a big deal to leave licensure after that many years and that much student loan. And I started a business called Being True to You. And it was a coaching business because I found that this was a way that I could help humanity and help people through the hardships of life and different states of suffering in a different way outside of the medical model. And I had no idea what it would become, and I had no idea how to run a business, but I did it anyway. I started Being True to You in 2010. And what we do now is we do online virtual coaching for individuals using psychedelic therapy. We prep people before and afterward. We just help support that whole transformational experience, going through any sort of state of suffering or addiction or something like that. And then we also train and certify coaches and professionals in our model. We've been running our coach training for a decade now. So it is just something very special. We were the first to market and the first for many years to be running this training. And it's really turned out to be something truly magnificent. And so we train people all over the world. It's probably one of the things we're most known for. And we also do preparation and integration for centers, wellness centers and ketamine treatment centers and psychedelic centers. And we do everything virtual. So we train our coaching teams, and then we will take our coaching pods and pair them to clinics with exactly the kind of coaches they need and exactly the number of coaches they need, so that any kind of program could extend their services by having people, their clients, being supported before and after. So we have three main verticals to our company.
Thank you for explaining that. So yeah, you have the two parts of the business, the coaching services, offering coaching services to individuals in clinics, and then also training coaches. And I'm so excited to be going through the Being True to You coach training program coming up this spring. And I can't wait to upgrade my skills. So we're really going to be focusing on that aspect of being true to you today. You mentioned leaving licensure and how that was a big deal for you and how you wanted to offer support and help outside of the medical model. Can you just tell us a little bit about how being true to you came to be and how it was developed, how you came to develop it?
Yeah, people ask a lot. How do you get a coaching business off the ground? How do you be successful as a coach? So we think about that a lot. For me, like I said, I was just really determined to not go back to working in restaurants at nighttime and not go back to working in an office in the daytime. And so I just had a lot of passion and a lot of enthusiasm. And I didn't have that many bills, so I was able to take that leap of faith. And so what I did was I first collected myself and started to process that journey of what does it mean to be true to yourself and what does it mean to change? And that's where I started. I really studied the process of changing human behavior, because you think about it, how do I change? Well, I just stop doing something and start doing something else. It's that simple, right? It seems that way. But when you look at it, we really look at how difficult it is for people to create change. We're creatures of habit. And once we have that template set for how we're going to move through our day or move through our week, that's exactly what we do. And when we try to change it, it's really difficult. And so the first thing I did was started to study that process of change. I wanted to look at a different model other than the medical model and the pathological model that says whatever symptoms or issues a client is dealing with is a pathology and something we need to eradicate and get rid of. That didn't sit well with me, because when I looked at the human experience, I thought, everybody's going through these hardships. Everyone has tests and trials. You can't go through the human experience and not face these things. And so I didn't see things like depression and anxiety or addiction or sleeplessness or any of it as a medical problem. I saw it actually as an accumulation of stressors and burdens and underlying attachments and emotional buildup that just hits a point where a person can't function normally anymore, whether it's a low energy state like depression or a high energy state like anxiety or a control state like addiction. I saw that it eventually will build up into this very problematic situation, and a person can't ignore the consequences. And that's actually a great moment in a person's life, because instead of saying, oh my gosh, I need treatment, I need medication, I need something outside of me to save me, that's the point where we start to look within and say, okay, where did I get off track in life? What am I doing or not doing that is creating these problems that are becoming so big that I can't ignore it? I actually do have to address it. So I really wanted to just explore the human experience and see what more are we not seeing right now? What is the medical system not looking at? To me, it was a very one dimensional model, really looking at like surface symptoms and surface problems. And that's okay. We can start there too. But I wanted to look at things multidimensionally. As I begin researching the process of change and personal development and self-help and self-improvement, I got a call from a friend of a friend who had Ibogaine Center in Mexico and told me about this very powerful entheogenic medicine called Ibogaine and how people were using it to detox from addiction or just detox from life. And so I thought, okay, this seems super out of left field. But after the third call, I was like, okay. So I went down to Mexico and I observed some treatments and I started talking to the clients going through it. And my mind was just blown. I thought I knew it. I knew there was another way to address the human experience. And I started to look at these entheogenic medicines and I thought they're doing it. Like when you go in and you have an experience like this, it's really turning our allopathic and conventional model on its head because we're showing that these conditions that we thought were chronic or terminal actually aren't that chronic at all. We can actually poke through them pretty easily if we just start looking at what are all the components that added up to that bigger problem. How can we start pulling that back by working on the micro details? And it was a process of my own exploration of how Being True to You got started. And it was just being so passionate and enthusiastic about really finding a different way to help people. And then also psychedelic therapies just started to show that a conversion experience is possible from your state of suffering. You are able to snap out of it. And that if we engage the work for ourselves, like we're not outsourcing to any kind of technique or tool or program solely, like it's okay to use these things, but ultimately like we're coming back in and we're saying, okay, where did I get off track? Where am I out of alignment with what's most important with me? Where did I give up on myself and stop believing in myself? When did I start hurting other people and just getting this list of conflicts out there that now I don't even know how to clean them up? And so on and so forth. And so that's how I got started is I built a whole business around integrating these really powerful experiences, whether it's a psychedelic experience or a near-death experience or the birth of a new child or the death of a loved one. There's so many absolutely excruciating things that can happen in the human experience and so many amazingly magnificent things that happen. But if we don't integrate them, that's when we seem to either miss the opportunity or remain stuck in a pattern that can just get worse and worse. So that's how I got started. It was like personal exploration and then finding the psychedelic community and realizing there is no preparation and integration industry anywhere, like in the medical industry, at least that I could see or by that name. There's obviously like some maintenance programs and recovery programs and certain things that people were doing. And yeah, that's how I got started, was really focusing, Lana, on the incremental changes that a person can do for themselves and what healing, cleansing, and growth it can happen through that process.
Yeah. And early on, when this program was really coming together for you, what kind of results were you getting with the people you were working with at the Ibogaine clinics?
Initially, Ibogaine is just so powerful, right? When people would come in, what we saw was they would come out in about 5 different states from Ibogaine, and a lot of them would come out in the pink cloud. So a lot of people would just come out and feel so relieved and have clarity of who they are and what they need to do to move forward in their life, just feel like they have direction and a starting point. And people would feel like that static stuckness, like all of those burdens that were upon them, they didn't know how to move through, were just all of a sudden gone. It's like all that, those obstacles that were in the way, they're not there anymore. The heart was, more opened. And so people felt ready to listen to their supporters and their mentors and their counselors at home. They were like, I get it now. I've been resisting everything that's been trying to help me. There's so many supports I have, but I've just been resisting it. So ready to go home and accept those supports and feeling inspired about life again, really being able to think about goals. One of the hardest things for people when they are in the middle of something as heavy as like a drug addiction, if you ask them about their goals, it can be a very triggering moment for them because there's just like this gap between where I am and where I think it could be, and there's too many blocks in between. And then all of a sudden after Ibogaine, everything, the path is clear. And so they can actually see the road forward to what I actually want. And once you can get them visualizing some of those passion projects and goals, then all of a sudden the motivation comes. What we saw initially after working with people with Ibogaine is that this is an amazing treatment. There's really nothing like it in the world to help with opiate addiction and any kind of addiction or psychological pattern that someone is stuck in. But then what we saw was that lasts for about a month to 3 months, and then people would start to fall off again and not understand why. It was so helpful. And yet now I'm back to where I was. And so that's what we initially built the program around, was that 3-month window to explore how do we hold on to this state of well-being, this state of inspiration, this state of clarity and openness and all of these things. Then what we noticed is that everyone wanted to sign up for coaching because they had never experienced anything like this. They had been going to rehab and to rapid detoxes and things like this and sober livings, but the focus wasn't around the path of their true self and what was most important to them and their passion projects. It was always, you're an addict and you don't really know what you need. So we're going to tell you what you need, and you need to follow everything that we say for the first year. And if you do everything we say, you're going to make it. You're going to hit your 1 year of sobriety, but you have to listen. And addiction was a control state. And so people need to feel that sense of autonomy. They need to be able to think for themselves and make their own decisions. So we created a 1-year program where people could come in, go through the roadmap to recovery, and style out their own first year with whatever they wanted. You want psychedelics in it? Great. You want church in it? Great. You want yoga? You want meditation? You want martial arts? You want traveling? You want time with your grandparents? You want to volunteer? You want to go to the gym? Literally, we just started getting really creative with our clients, and what we saw was it was fun and that recovery could be more exciting. It didn't have to be this really daunting process. In a nutshell, what we saw with Ibogaine is that it works, it does its job, but the person has to do their job. You can't just sit back and expect it to fix you and change you. It's opening your heart. It's opening your mind. It's clearing your pathway. It's giving you all the mental and emotional, physical and spiritual energy you need to now pick up the pieces of your life and move forward. And then integration coaching was that perfect match to come in and help people to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Having experienced Iboga myself, which contains the active alkaloid Ibogaine that you're speaking about, yeah, it certainly cracks you open, gives you the answers, but it's absolutely up to you to really take those teachings and those answers and put them into action and make the changes in your life. And this is really what coaching does. So it's funny, I see myself in you so much because you've really created something where you've put psychedelics and coaching together. That's what modern psychedelics is also about. How do you see those two working together? What is the role of psychedelics or the psychedelic experience? And then what is the role of coaching? And why do you see them going so well together?
Yeah, good question. Thanks for asking it, because I think there's a lot of pairings that could be done between various transformational tools and then helping professions. And so I think the unique match between psychedelics and integration coaching is so perfect because the framework and orientation is the same. There's a set of characteristics that are required to be successful with the transformational process and with psychedelic therapies, and it's the same. It's the same framework. Sometimes when you're using the medical model with psychedelic therapies, it's like going backward. Psychedelic therapies have really turned the psychotherapy model upside down. And so when you try to put psychotherapy back with psychedelics, it can work if you have a really good experienced therapist that know how to adapt. But the model itself can tend to oppose each other because one is really trying to expose the fact that there isn't pathologies, that it's just your own accumulation of fears and limiting beliefs and burdens and all the stuff that you need to clean up, everything that you have access to, while the other one is trying to say that these things are wrong and shouldn't be happening, that these symptoms and problems are just coming out of left field. We don't know where they are and we need some medicine to fix them. And so sometimes they can work in an opposing way. With integration coaching and psychedelics, it's interesting. If you think about what a librarian is to a library, or you think about what an art teacher is to an art classroom, or you think about a personal trainer to a gym. Imagine walking into a gym, a library, or an art classroom for the first time. The very first time, you just walk in and the sky is the limit. You could literally do anything with your body. You could create any kind of magnificent project, or you could get information of any kind, right? But you don't know because it's the first time you've been in a library and you're just like, I have no idea what to do, where to go. You come into an art room, you're like, I don't know what the supplies are. I don't even know what the potential is to build something. Even if I could find a coloring book and crayons, like I don't see the bigger picture. And so what I think about integration coaching is that it is, that for psychedelic therapies. Psychedelic therapies is an experience. That's what it is. It's an experience. And it opens up a space for an individual to identify and sit with themselves. And it's very difficult in today's modern world to do that. Literally, people are teaching 1 minute and 2 minute meditations because that's how hard it is for people to be still. They teach you the best videos are 1 to 5 minutes because nobody can pay attention longer than that. And so I feel like people take psychedelics because it's the only way to lock themselves in a space with themselves alone. And for 4 to 8 hours, you can't get out. So, okay, I'm going to take this so I can't escape. And so you go into this big room. Think about the library or the art classroom or the gym. And there's like all this material to work with. But when you go in there for your first time, or even your second time, your third time, your 10th time, it doesn't really matter. Like when you go in there and you're not familiar with the material that's coming up, it's too easy to get either lost in the fascination of the trip or to just get stuck in the fear and just resist and to ride it out and pray to God for it to end. And what's happening in that moment is that there's so much coming up. Like when your fear comes up, when your defenses come up, when your irritability comes up, when your attachments come up and your grandiose ideas, like all of it. When your trauma comes up, most of the time people will think it's too much to bear, or I don't know how to handle it, or I don't know how to remember. I don't know. But what the coaching is going to do beforehand is going to give people the tools to raise their consciousness, to be able to pay attention to what's happening on a mental level, emotional level, physical level, spiritual level, biological level, relational level. There's so much happening in that journey. And some of it is sub-perceptual, and some of it does happen at the microscopic level where your consciousness doesn't go. But a lot of it is based on your consciousness. And so with an integration coach, they can prep you for that experience. They can prep you for the navigation of that experience. And then afterward, help you to unpack what happened in that room. What was in that room and what meaning did you create out of it? What did you get out of it? How did you strengthen your mind, body, and spirit while you were in there? And then furthermore, how can we take this and how can we bring this into everyday life? And furthermore, I'll just share a couple more points on the pairing between integration coaching and psychedelic therapies, because I think it is such a unique and good pairing, and it's neutral. When you go into a psychedelic experience, there's no one judging you. There's no biasness. There's no one having an agenda or a motive for how to see something. It's just you and yourself and this space that's created for you to have this experience. And I don't know about all coaching in the world, but I know Being True to You coaching, we spend a lot of time taking that and extending that autonomy and that neutrality and that biasness from the psychedelic experience into the coaching experience. And so that a client before, during, and after has that space to think for themselves. There's no agenda. There's no motive. We're not trying to pull people from their faith or their worldview. We're not trying to teach them a different view of the world. We're not trying to get them to jump on a social movement or something like that. And that's much of what's happening in the industry. And actually, that's what's happening behind a lot of the treatments that are out there and a lot of the movements is, hey, let me help you so I can teach you how to think and I can tell you how to show up in society. And so we found that with coaching, there's no regulation, there's no board, and you have to follow the law, of course. There's morals, there's ethics, and there's laws, but it's unregulated. And when you step into a space like that, you have this multi-dimensional space to have an existential conversation that's not censored, that's not controlled. There's no mandatory reporting or recording, nothing like that. And there's nothing that the coach needs from you. There's no quotas they need to meet, and there's no people that they're working for where they need to put messages into your experience. And so I feel like it's just such a clean and pure experience for people to really, truly think for themselves and identify, what is this human experience? What does it mean for me? If I peel back the entire matrix and I just sit here with myself and I just think, what is most important to me? And what legacy do I want to leave behind? And when I get to the end of my life, how will I know that I lived my life? And so we facilitate that same conversation that we believe is happening in the psychedelic space so that a person can truly crack open what does it mean to be true to myself for themselves?
I love the way you put that. That's so good. Yeah, there's definitely this parallel between the psychedelic experience and working with a good coach who is actually coaching you and doesn't have an agenda, which a real good coach doesn't, and them creating that space for you to self-reflect just as you would in a psychedelic experience. I always say psychedelics allow us to start the process, and coaching allows us to continue that process and continue following that thread. The Being True to You coach training. So the certification you get is a transformational and psychedelic coach, correct?
So we say transformational and psychedelic integration coach. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I'm so excited to be going through the program. I've been eyeing it for years. It's definitely the best one out there, I think, out of all the ones I've seen. Can you tell listeners a little bit about the program, going through the coach training program, what they can expect to learn? Is there a really heavy focus on addiction? Do people have to want to work with people dealing with addiction to go through your program? Yeah, just share with us a little bit more about the Being True to You coach training.
I would love to. And thanks for asking the question. I know a lot of people want to identify, how do I help? We see our country and other countries just full of epidemics and people dying too young, whether by their own hand, whether by addiction, whether by pharmaceutical mistakes, whether by unknown circumstances. But what we do see is that the more we try to help, it's like the worse the problem is getting. And so I think people are starting to realize there is no external solution. We have to actually get in and do the work. We have to do the work for ourselves, and we have to help each other. So the question is, how do we help each other? Because I want to help this person and that person, but they don't want help and they're resisting it. And so it gets really tricky. I was talking before, it's hard for us to understand how the process of change even works for a human. It's even harder to try to figure out how it works for someone else. And we really love what we get to do because we get to train people under the title of coach certification, because we can do that outside of the medical model, which is what we like doing. And we also get to help supporters of all kinds. First of all, anyone can come through our training. We're helping people through the human experience. We're helping people to use circumstances of suffering and various lifelong conditions and addiction as a launching pad to access the work. And anyone can do that. We're all human. We've all walked the human experience. We all have an understanding of how difficult it can be and how difficult it can be helping ourselves and helping others. Anyone can come through our training. We tend to get a lot of professionals and people who have been supporting others for years or decades in one way or another, whether they're counselors or social workers, or whether they're doctors or they're professors, or they've worked in the military or martial arts, or I like it. We get people from all over. So it's really fascinating to come into our community. You'll get a lot of friends really quickly. We do have a component around addiction. The component around addiction is where we start in this current training. And that's because the phenomenon of addiction relates to all states of suffering. And a lot of people are very scared of that word and think, no, I don't want to learn about that. I don't want to help people with addiction. And that's because they probably have known someone with addiction who kept saying they were going to change and didn't, and it wears them out. And so you think, I don't want to do that. But if we broaden our understanding of the phenomenon of addiction, we see that it's much more than just getting addicted to drugs. It is actually this phenomenon that pulls people outside of their inner world and into the external world. And then we start to project our problems and our solutions outward, and then we get hooked on it. And every state of suffering can lead a person to addictive tendencies. And there's addictive tendencies within every culture of every manifestation. It's just that a lot of them are hidden because they're acceptable and they're tolerated and people can still function. But we have found the addiction phenomenon present in really everyone we've trained and everyone we've coached. And so we teach on that subject, but it's important to know you do not have to work with people through heavy addiction. Coming through our training, people have every kind of niche, and people are connected to every kind of demographic. Whether you want to work with teens and help with all of the issues and struggles that they're dealing with right now, whether you want to work with college-aged individuals, middle-aged adults, seniors, men, women, people going through this situation, people going through that situation, the training will be relevant to you. If you want to work with people through addiction, that'll really help for sure. But either way, you'll want to learn that piece. And then, of course, we get into all states of suffering. So I'll just say that. And then to give a little logistics about the training is 5.5 months. And by the way, Lana, we're so happy to have you come in and going to be recording your journey through this whole process. That's going to be really exciting. So it's 5.5 months. We typically start in the spring and in the fall. March and September are typically when we start. It's all online. There's no prerequisites to join. There's several components to it. We have 30 lectures followed by open discussions on video that we all go through. There's experiential workshops. So the lectures is like more of the instruction, educational aspects that I wrote. I wrote all of that over 10 years, continue to perfect it. And then we have the experiential workshops where our senior coaches come in and they bring the whole thing to life. That's the hands-on coaching. That's when you really get to see what does it look like to coach someone and what does it look like to coach them through emotion, trauma, resistance, all of that stuff that can be really difficult. And trainees get to come in and actually witness that every single week. We have tons of workshops going. And then we have partner coaching available. So people will be paired off and they'll be able to start partner coaching. We have personal support groups because there's a lot that comes up. It's a really transformational process in and of itself. And so we have personal support groups that can help people as well. We have a mentor program. So everyone is assigned a mentor. And then we offer a toolkit of all the forms that you need to get started, all the business forms and all the coaching forms that you need to get started, which we keep perfecting every year. It's just really amazing. It's hard to get stuff like this. And so that's the whole program. We go through 3 different sections. We go through the recovery guide, which is all about the transformational process. How do we change as humans? How do we prepare for change? How do we integrate changes? What are all the different modalities and pathways available to people that they can go through to support that process? How do we support others? How do we train the supporters? Everything to do with transformational work in the first 10 levels. The second 10 levels is all about coaching. What is coaching? How is it different from any other model? How do you work with people outside of the medical model? What are coaching skills and coaching tools and coaching ethics? What are the do's and don'ts? What is the potential of coaching to help people and help address what's going on in this world? And what is the beauty of being a coach? Because you get to work from home, you get to really dial in your niche audience and who you want to work with, and you get to create your own products. You can create workbooks and workshops and all kinds of things. The sky is really the limit as far as coaching. And then the last 10 levels is when we get into entheogenic work and working with all states of suffering. So we look deeper into the human experience, how to guide someone short-term and long-term through transformational experiences, who are using any number of transformational tools. We dive really deep into psychedelics. We go through all the different psychedelic medicines, how to prepare people for these medicines, how to help people self-select if these experiences are right for them, for themselves, how to navigate the experiences, how to help people integrate, and everything that comes up in that space of preparing people for psychedelic therapies and helping them to maximize the benefits. And then we just talk about the journey of the true self. What's the bigger picture? Because the industry is really hyper-focused right now on how to heal trauma. And that's just the big focus, but it doesn't stop there. In fact, you can hold a person back if you're always digging up wounds and constantly jumping back into that agonizing, miserable place. And really, the human experience isn't just to resolve underlying trauma. Like that's just a step in it. Really, we want to get to the higher calling. We want to understand, what is this dimension all about? Really, what are we here for? And what are we here to accomplish? And how can we make sure that we're doing it right and fulfilling our purpose for being here? And so we take people to that higher next level thinking. And I think that's really what people are wanting, is they feel that existential need for more. So that's our training in a nutshell.
Let me introduce you to Kana, a legal, well-researched plant medicine from South Africa. It's an empathogen, which means it promotes feelings of empathy, openness, and connection. Through this state, we can experience profound emotional shifts and breakthroughs that make a big difference in our day. Through research, it has been found that Kana has an extremely low risk profile. In fact, one of its active alkaloids has been studied and is prescribed as a pharmaceutical for anxiety and depression. Rather than being a huge experience you have to set aside a lot of time, energy, and money for, Kana is that gentle daily ally for uplifting mood. Kana can be used as a daily supplement or even in a microdosing protocol. Kana Extract Co. creates the world's most potent and effective Kana extracts. With third-party lab testing, you know that what you're getting is the active alkaloids that will actually make a difference in your day. If you want to learn more about this plant medicine, check out episode 74 with Brian Luttrell, Kana Extract Co.'s founder. Have I mentioned that it's legal and therefore accessible in the US? Get yours today by visiting kanaextract.com and use Lana at checkout to save 10%. That's Kana Extract, KANNA.com, and use Lana, LANA, at checkout to save 10%. All right, back to the episode. Thank you so much for saying that about, life is not all about healing. I could not agree with you more. It's so important to do the healing, but once that's kind of out of the way and you've really done the chunk of it, that's when the work gets really fun. And that's when the transformations start happening. There's healing and there's transformation. I'm curious how you see the difference between those two. It's something that I like to think about a lot. There's the healing journey and the transformational journey, right? I think therapists deal a lot more with healing, whereas coaches deal a lot more with transformation. But yeah, I'm curious to hear how you see the difference between the two and what transformation means to you.
I guess for transformation for me would be transforming something dark within the body and turning it into something light. And so that dark matter can show up in a lot of different ways. We have psychological dark matter, and that could be our fears, our scarcity mindset, our negativity, things like that. And then you have like emotional dark matter, which can be resentment and anger and just like sadness and sorrow. And there's just so much matter, and it has a physical substance to it, whether it's a thought or whether it's an emotion. There's like a physical substance that sort of gets trapped in the body. And then you have physical dark matter, which could be toxicity, old injuries, not moving the energy, just letting things get stuck in the body. And then there could be spiritual darkness as well. And so what we want to do with transformational work is we're identifying like where are those dark particles that are in the body and how do we transform them back into light? How do we step into our light body? That really is the spiritual journey. And I think the higher purpose of life is to say, I have this heavy, sad, miserable body and miserable mind. And now how do I transform it? How do I make this into a happy, healthy, light-hearted body? And so that's the transformation process, is you are actually transforming fear into faith, or lies into truth, or irritability into adaptability. And so it's a character formation process. If you look at transformation, it's really refining our character. And I would say it's one of the most commonly missed things when it comes to the process of change, is that people don't really put emphasis on character, and it being true to you is the most important for us. Now, when you talk about healing, I don't really think of healing in my personal journey at all. I think of it as cleansing, is how I think of it. I think of it as just cleansing that stuff out of the body, whether it's trauma, whether it's karma, whether it's toxicity, whatever it is, it's stuck in there and it's affecting me, and it's showing up in my day-to-day patterns, and it's showing up in the way that I interact with people and the way that I show up each day. And so I want to clean that out. So I think of it more as just cleansing that stuff out. Of course, I've had healing experiences too. And I just think of it more as a cleansing experience, because you're letting go of something. You're letting go of an attachment. And if we think about the opposite of healing, we're holding on to an attachment. We might be holding on to an event or holding on to a traumatic memory. And we really just want to release that and let that go. So that's how I see it. What I'll add about healing is I think healing modalities would be exactly opposite of coaching. I think with coaching, it's all about doing the work for yourself and taking full responsibility to experience those profound changes in yourself. But I think there's a whole industry too of healing, which is actually opposite. It's asking the person to turn your trust over to a healing modality or to a healer and saying, okay, let them heal you, let this thing heal you. And I think that there's a lot of benefit that can come from that. But ultimately, to me, to fully let go of the pain and the problem, the person has to do that for themselves. And even if a healer comes in and says, oh, let me take that for you, the person's going to go home to their same routine, and they're going to accumulate that same dark matter right back again. And then they're just going to keep going back to the healer and saying, take it away again, as they go back and dive into their couch and potato chips and their TV shows and bring all that stuff back. And so it'll keep coming back unless you clean it for yourself. So I think that coaching is so powerful because we don't sell any kind of cure whatsoever. We're just like, you're going to have to do it all by yourself. We're going to be there with you, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to help you, but we don't sell any promises that we're going to heal people. So I think with healing modalities, we need to be careful with them. And we need to be careful because we're really encouraging people to outsource their own work to something or someone else. And it won't last unless the person has a hand in it. They're directly participating in letting it go. If I go to Ibogaine or Iboga and I go do a journey and it's going to heal me, really it's cleansing me. Think about it. It's cleansing you. You do these experiences and you can tell that's what's happening is it's just like, and take all that stuff away. I have to work with it now. I have to actually let it go and go home and not do all the things that are going to bring it back in my body or it's not going to work.
I feel so aligned with so much of what you're sharing. And I don't know if this was communicated to you through my comms with the Being True to You team, but I was trained as a coach through IPEC, which is pretty intense, like ICF accredited training. So I've been really picky about, like, I knew I wanted to do another coach training that is specific to psychedelics and integration just to up-level my skill set. And I've been so picky about choosing a school that really honors coaching as a profession in the way that it is meant to be done. There's so many things here that you're saying that are really aligned with that make me really trust Being True to You. We're not here as coaches to tell people what to do or give them advice. Like, we're literally just like, this is you and your journey. And I'm just here to ask you questions. And I have no agenda and I'm not attached. My only agenda is to be present for you. And yeah, I feel like that's such a huge foundational part of coaching that is missed within like the Instagram coaching world. I love your emphasis on that. I also have heard you talk about the importance of neutrality as a coach, because that's another thing that I learned through my first coach training. Can you talk to us a little bit about cultivating neutrality as a coach, what you mean by that and why that's important?
I just would say, like, we live in a modern society right now, so times are different than they used to be. I think that there didn't used to be so much controversy and division in society, and everyone just thought the same way. So it wasn't as pertinent to talk about neutrality and being unbiased in the coaching session. But now we live in a time where there is a lot of different worldviews and a lot of different belief systems and a lot of different modalities, and they actually oppose each other. So sometimes people think, well, I'll just cherry pick from all these different worldviews and religions and practices, and I'll just take the best of everything. But if you really look at worldviews and spend as much time as I have, I started studying theology when I was in college, and I continued to for a long time because I really wanted to understand like the commonalities really between everything. And you find the commonalities between these programs, but then you also start to see there's a lot of actual direct opposition between them. So you could just look at traditional pathways and modern pathways, exactly the opposite. You know, if you were to really unpack the traditional ways and what people believed in and held sacred and the way that they lived their life and the guiding principles that they had, and then you look at like modern teachings, you're going to see it's directly opposing each other. So what that means is you can't mix them. You're either more of a modern thinker or you're more of a traditional thinker. And so what happens when you're in the coaching dynamic is that if a coach is not fully aware of that, of all the different worldviews and all the different belief systems, at least your own, you don't have to be aware of all of them, obviously, but if you're not deeply in touch with your own paradigm and what you believe to be true, then you're naturally going to blanket that on top of your client. And so as they're trying to figure out, what's my faith? What's my guiding principles? What's true for me? Do I believe in God or do I not? Do I believe in the afterlife or do I not? Do I believe in past lives or do I not? These are deep questions that people want to talk about because it matters how they live their life in terms of what they understand. And so when you have a psychedelic therapy team of facilitators and sitters and then coaches that all have their own thinking, and they share a thinking, and then you bring somebody in, they're going to blanket their entire worldview onto that person. And I would say it's one of my pet peeves in the industry is actively bringing in people of faith or Christians or people who are very devout in their religion and then trying to pull them from that religion and then give them a new template for how to understand life. And it's causing a lot of inner conflict and it's causing a lot more problems for that person. And so a long time ago, I started to think, okay, like how can we address this at Being True to You? Because on the professional side, you're supposed to be unbiased already. You know, I'm a trained counselor, and any doctor and any professional knows don't do transference, don't put your own stuff, your own personal emotions, your own personal baggage into the client. So most people understand that. But now there's like another way of thinking about it, which is like neutrality, which is don't put your worldview onto people and don't correct their thinking. And don't try to change them. Don't try to police their words and say, don't use that word, use this word, or actually, you're at a lower level, so let me just explain this to you. Actually, this is the way it is. And we start to change the way people think about it. And I started to notice, even in Being True to You, we all think different. We all have like different faiths and different spiritual practices, and we have different worldviews and different ways of thinking of things. So how are we going to be neutral with the clients? And so basically, that's what we realized, is that the only way to run a good community where everyone feels welcome and where everyone can be their true self and where everyone can find themselves is for our coaches to develop this coaching policy of neutrality. And what that means is, as the coach, our clients don't even really know what we think. They don't know our religious or spiritual views. They don't know our worldview. They don't know our political views. They don't know where we stand on all these controversial issues, because it doesn't matter. What matters is that you show up, you're present, and you have your heart there for them, and you're able to help them come up with these answers for themselves. So neutrality is something I find more and more important, and I think that it's not being exercised very well at all in the larger psychedelic movement. I think it's actually not even being exercised that well in the larger mental health space either. I think there has been a lot of agendas and motives and even propaganda that have slipped into this space, to where we're using very powerful things like psychedelic treatments and other transformational tools, and we give it to people, and then we're planting in these seeds that will grow later for how to think about the nation's problems and the world's problems and what people should be doing. And I just find that to be mind control. I find that to be unethical. I think that we really shouldn't do that. We should really work with the individual and pull those answers out from them. They have a whole lineage that they're from. They have ancestors. They have grandparents. They have a church that they came from. They have many things that they've studied. It's in there. And probably we all grew up in the lineage and in the home and the community. We were meant to find our own path in life. And so that's what I would say on neutrality. Of course, I'm interested in what you think as well. And I know we don't have time to always go through those things, but I'll just say there's very big decisions people are making right now, very big decisions that they will have to sit with forever. Do I get married? Do I not get married? Do I have an abortion? Do I not have an abortion? Do I take out a mortgage, or do I not take out a mortgage? Do I take out a student loan, or do I not take out a student loan? Do I take this medication, or do I not take this medication? Do I end this friendship and start this friendship? Or I just think these are really big decisions people are making that are going to affect them forever. And a coach and a professional does not want to be liable for having any influence in those decisions whatsoever. You want that client to think back years later and say, I am so grateful that when I was going through that very hard time, making that very big decision, that my coach helped me think through all the different hypotheticals, and that I had to really do some research and sit with what was right, so that I knew when I made the decision that I made the decision for me. And now it's something I can live with. You do not want someone down the road looking back saying, my coach totally influenced me to do that. And that's what's happening right now. Professionals are undoubtedly directly or indirectly influencing clients to make decisions. And they will look back, and they already are looking back and saying, wow, the professional world literally talked me into doing that. And we see that happening. Medical professionals actually pushing people to do things. Certainly it's happening in the psychedelic industry too, where we're pressuring people to make certain decisions and to do things. And that's not how we want to be. We really want to be hands-off and objective with these big decisions for people.
Again, I love how you put that, thinking of neutrality as this coaching skill that actually empowers our clients to think for themselves and gives them space to think for themselves. I am not very public about my perspectives, my political perspectives, my views on many things. And it's exactly for that reason, because I know I have a lot of people tuning into this podcast that want to work with me, or my clients listen to my podcast too. And I think you put this into perfect words, this idea that neutrality detaches us from having an influence in a place where people should be thinking for themselves and making their own decision. I think that's really powerful. And if a coach isn't doing that, then what they're doing is not really coaching, because coaching is all about creating a space for someone to find the answers for themselves. And as a coach, everything that we do is in service to that. And again, I think that's why psychedelics and coaching go so well together. They're both this mirror, this modality that is a mirror for ourselves, into ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
I know something that you emphasize that being true to you is character building within your coaches and helping your coaches build character. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you mean by that and why a coach needs to have a good character, or what that even means?
Yeah, so let's see. So character is like who you are as a person. And to me, it's the only thing that you take with you when you die. So everything that you accumulate in life doesn't really matter, but who you are. And that's how people remember you too. Doesn't matter how much fame you have, doesn't matter how much money you have. It matters how you treat people. That's what people remember, is how they felt when they were in your space. And so to me, a coach is going to want to exude a very powerful character, a very heart-centered character. Just think about a mentor that you have out there. Think about someone that you really love and admire, someone that you really respect. And think about what it feels like to be next to them. And then think about someone that you're like, I would never go to them if I needed support. Like, I work with them or whatever, they're my neighbor or whatever, but I would never go to them. And think about why. It's characteristics. When you're around somebody who just exudes love and compassion and presence and just non-judgment and eagerness and sincerity to learn about your story, and you just feel like, and you just want to open up and you want to share everything with them. And that feels good versus when you're with somebody and you could just feel the judgment. You can feel the busyness. They're looking at their watch, they're texting their phone. They're just like, oh my gosh, is she almost done talking so I can go to lunch now? Or they're too eager to jump in with their own ideas and their own stories. And you can't really even talk to them because they're constantly like reflecting on things through what they've experienced. And no, it's not really what I'm going through. You're projecting here. And so if you want to help somebody, you have to have the characteristics that invite them to put their walls down. Everyone has walls up. It's hard for us to trust. It's hard for us to feel safe to disclose the things that are most sensitive to us. And so we're only going to do that for somebody that has good character. And good character is not something that can be faked. And that's something that I've realized for the last 14 years of running Being True to You as well, is you can learn what it means to be a good coach. You're like, okay, I've got to listen. I've got to be quiet. I've got to make good eye contact, no fidgeting, be present, but they can still feel it. If inside your mind, you're like, oh, I've got to text this person afterward. And then I got to run to the gym. And when's this coaching call going to be over? They can tell. So even if you like really try to fake it, they can feel it, that you're not home, that you're not really there. And so what we've realized is that you have to work hard to strengthen your character. And to do that is a cultivation process. It's a process of looking within and noticing yourself, noticing when you are a little bit edgy with someone and you put them off, and then just catching yourself in the spot and being like, oh, I was a little bit too forceful or too assertive, or I was a little bit too aggressive or irritable in that situation, or goodness, I have a problem with reliability. I keep showing up late. I keep missing things. I really need to look at that. And taking feedback. People give feedback all the time, whether you're listening or not, through facial expressions. People might glare at you. People might not call you back. There's lots of ways that people are giving feedback. And through that, you can evaluate what are my true traits and characteristics and what are my strengths, and then what are the areas that I need to improve. And it's a process that goes on through life. So honestly, Lana, people don't really ask about character that much, and I don't see any programs teaching on character, very rarely, but it's the most important thing at Being True to You. When we're hiring coaches, we look at character first, communication skills second, and credentials third. Because to us, you could have all the credentials in the world, but it doesn't mean that you've actually integrated the teachings, that you've actually immersed yourself and assimilated yourself to something that is true and genuine and sincere and loving and wholesome, it just means that you've studied a bunch of stuff. And so we look at credentials are important, but it's third on our list. We want to see who you are as an individual. And we are looking at people just through the training. We just look at, is this person graceful? Are they communicative? Are they relatable? Are they compassionate? Are they kind? Are they respectful? Do they communicate really well? Do they follow through? When there is a little bump or a tension, such as something doesn't turn out right, the link is wrong, or the company messed up on something, do they just get bent out of shape and have a meltdown? That says a lot about the character. So we notice everyone that comes through, and it's a hard environment to be in because we have that lens on. Even for each other, we're always looking at each other's character. And even in our team, we have an accountability board between ourselves where we come together and we talk these things out, and everybody agrees to look within and say, I could have been a little bit quicker when I put that task over. I'm sorry I blamed you for being slow, but actually I didn't get you that task until the end of the week. So now that I'm looking at it, if I would have got you that task on Monday, you would have been able to turn it in earlier. So actually it is my fault. It's not your fault. And so when we have that practice, that's character, is I'm taking the time to stop and I'm scanning myself. I'm reflecting on where I fell short and I'm improving. And the problem is not the falling short. We all do it. We all have flaws and shortcomings. The importance is, are we looking at it? Are we acknowledging it? Are we making it right? So yeah, character is really everything when it comes to coaching somebody, and you can't fake it. You have to genuinely do the work. Your client will notice. And as the theory goes, you can only take a client as high as you've gone yourself. So think about it. If I haven't looked at something in my life and it's just maybe it's my relationship with a family member and I haven't looked at it at all. And I'm like, nope. Soon as my client starts talking about an issue that relates to my issue, I'm going to either consciously or unconsciously steer in a different direction, because I'm going to be like, nope, I'm not going there, because that's in my shadow. And so why it's so important to work on yourself too is not only so that you're relatable and people feel safe and comfortable with you and they trust you, but it's also because you could be blocking them from working on something within themselves because you haven't worked on it yourself. And so as soon as it comes up, you're going to be like, oh, so what about that other thing you were talking about? And you're going to take them in a different direction. And then they're going to learn, oh, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to go there in coaching. Maybe that's out of bounds. And then they don't get to work on that area because the coach is avoiding that area.
Hearing you talk about character is making me reflect on how much becoming a coach and going through coach training has helped me personally develop my own character. And just the coaching process, how it is really beneficial for that character development and that self-reflection that it takes. I was hesitant about the being true to you addiction module, but I'm looking forward to going through it because I'm at the point now in my journey where I'm just fine tuning, that point where you've gone through all the major healing. You've gone through a lot of the transformation. It's just fine tuning. And one thing I'm working on right now, or I want to, is I have a sugar addiction. And you were talking about how addictions come in all varieties. And for me, I definitely have a sugar addiction, and I'm excited to take that through the addiction portion of being true to you as students are going through your program. I imagine that there's a huge transformation that they go through because you're having to take the classes, listen to the lectures, do the homework. You're getting coached yourself. You're coaching, you're in a pretty energetically potent container where a lot of stuff's coming up and getting triggered. Can you speak a little bit about the transformations that someone can expect simply by going through the program?
We realized a few years ago that our program is like one long, gigantic psychedelic experience. And we actually started doing preparation for the coach training in and of itself because it's just so deep. We prepare people for psychedelic experiences because they're not prepared for what they're about to face. And we realized we have to start doing that for our coach training. So now we start our calls 2-3 months before we even start the training. We start our prep calls just to get people warmed up to the space and warmed up to that self-reflection. Our training will be very different than any other coach program, and I'm so excited to hear what you think. And please share your honest feedback as you go through it with your viewers and with me, everyone. And at the end, very curious. But what it's asking us to do through the coach training is to look at ourselves. And I went through my whole master's program, and yeah, sometimes when you're learning diagnostic structures, you'll say, oh, I see that in myself. And sometimes it pings you. but it never really asked you to do the work. Like through my entire 11 years of getting my master's program, it was just like, get a counselor. That's important. But that's about as far as it went. I didn't understand the work. Even when I was a mental health counselor, I was like, so what do I do? My supervisor was like, you know what to do. You're trained. You know what to do. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And so it took some while to understand that. But then I wanted to write the training in a different way. I wanted to write it in a personal way so that we could identify these things in ourselves. So it's a transformational experience because what we're doing is we are deeply looking at these phenomenons that we're afraid to look at. And addiction is one of them. We don't want to look at that phenomenon. We're just like, nope, I don't know what that is. I don't need to know about that. That's those other people. And so we're really looking at what are the characteristics of the mind, the characteristics of the personality, the characteristics of one's lifestyle and habitual behavior, and characteristics of our society and our culture that are actually pulling us away from our true self. And so what happens through the process is we come in to the training really excited to learn how to help other people, but then you really start to like pull back the layers of yourself. And so it can be harder for some than others. I would say the people that have been through addiction and the people who've been in recovery and the people who've been working on themselves a long time just really appreciate it and value it because it makes sense. And some people who haven't had those really deep, dark night of the soul moments, they might start entering it in our coach training program because we have a high view of ourselves until we start pulling back those layers and we start to see all the gaps. And I think that's what the training does. So it is a little bit difficult for people. We don't often tell anyone that up front, but when you come in, you start to see the little areas of deception, those little areas of selfishness, those areas of obsession, those areas of impulsivity, like those areas where we are putting up an image and it's not true. And what happens through the training is it breaks you down a little bit. It really makes you humble. Like people have been through our training are really humble because you go through and all of those little gaps and notions and attachments and shortcomings. And you just think, oh my gosh, I'm just getting started. We have people, master's level and PhD level, people have been supporting for decades. They just all of a sudden they're like, I don't think I could coach. And I'm like, you can. They're like, no, like this is way harder than I thought. And so people go through that moment, I would say, through the training. And the reason is because they're looking so deeply within themselves, I think deeper than they have before, and starting to realize maybe I need help. Maybe I need a coach. And in fact, a lot of our trainees do hire a coach. And by the end of it, when you go through the whole process, you come out so strong because now there's no part of you that you're afraid to go. You've went into all of those places of insecurity, in those triggering places. And people are just so triggered all the time. There's so much sensitivity, you can barely talk anymore. So in our program, we just welcome it. We just say, you're going to be triggered. You're probably going to cry. It's going to happen to everyone. So let's just dive in. And then people get excited about it. And then before you know it, it feels good because then someone else finds something else in themselves that they hadn't seen before. And so it's a very transformative process. It's a very humbling process. And then when they come out and they're ready to coach, they make such good coaches because, like I said, there is no place that they haven't gone. And so when the client starts to bring up these trepidatious areas that they're afraid to go, they feel like, oh, the coach has me. The coach, they're ready. They can feel that you've been there. And the coach feels it too. I would say people do lose a little bit of confidence going through the training because it's just so complex and it's just so transformative. I think everyone, our new students to our highest trained professionals, I think all go through a moment of, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And that's what we want. We want our coaches to be humble. We want them to really go through that whole process of transformation and looking at all of themselves, because that's what's going to make a good coach. And that's what's going to make you relate to a client. The worst thing a coach is when you get too high on yourself. Those are the coaches we have the hardest time with, are the coaches that are so full of themselves. Like, I've done this training and I've done that and I've done every medicine and I am the best. The clients just don't like that. A lot of times they like our newest coaches because they're so humble and they're just so real. They're so genuine and they still can tap into the sadness and the tragedy, the moments that they've been through. The clients love that feeling, right? So I think that we bring people to a place of true, genuine support because of what they go through.
Humility and being humble is a huge part of being not just a coach, but being on the psychedelic path, the medicine path. I think that's really important teaching. I'm just so excited. I was already excited, but after talking with you today and diving a little deeper about the program, I'm even more excited. I'm a pretty busy girl, but I'm making it work. Can you tell us a little bit about, how many hours a week people need to commit? Can this training be done in tandem with a full-time job? How does that work for people?
Yeah, I would say most everyone that comes through has a full-time job or is a full-time parent or both. So our training is very flexible. It's approximately 10 hours a week. We play every class AM and PM. So every class, every open discussion, every workshop, you can join either in like the morning session or the afternoon session. So that gives you 2 times per week. Plus you can listen to lectures in the classroom on your own time. So if you just can't make them at all, you just go to the classroom on your own time. You can listen to them and then you can make up the workshops and the discussions because we have so many of them. So you don't have to attend all 100%, although I recommend that. You have to just attend a percentage of them. So it's really easy to make up. And that's because we have people in many different time zones, people working 2 or 3 jobs, people raising children. I think a lot of people are worried about that coming in, but nobody says anything about it after they start the training because they're like, oh, I got it. So once they figure it out, it's flexible. Yeah, and the 10 hours a week, some of it's optional. So you could attend up to 15 hours or more a week. There's lots of stuff, but the basic commitment to get certified is about 10 hours a week for 5 months.
What kind of jobs or roles do being true to you coaches go on to do in the world? What will this qualify people for?
Yeah, another really good question. There's a lot you can do with a coach training program. I really feel like the term coach is applicable to all professions. Wherever people are in the world, whatever industry or job you have, a coaching certification is definitely going to take that to the next level. I would say about half of the people that come through are already professionals, already entrepreneurs, already are embedded in their profession and they're coming through just to deepen their practice. A quarter of them are coming through just for personal development. And they just want to explore, okay, what am I made of? What is this entire transformational process? How do I support people? And just exploring what's possible. And I would say another quarter are people that want to be coaches. Of course, this was a coach training, but this is just who joins. And so the coaches, they either want to start a business where they just go apply to work for other facilities. And so people that are looking for jobs or looking to start something who don't already have a career, you can apply to work with companies like ours. We've been taking applicants in year round. We have more and more companies reaching out to us. There are thousands of retreats and programs being put up, and they all want integration coaches now, and they don't want to run the program by themselves because it's too hard. They just want to work with people on site. They don't want to be supporting people off site. And so that's what we do. And there is room for 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 coaches. There's no limit. You might think everyone's becoming a coach, but that's because the world needs coaches. And every zip code needs coaches. You can apply to work with a company like ours. There's a lot of other companies that are hiring coaches now. There's a lot of people that are putting up directories. And so you can get on those directories. You can work for retreats and clinics. So you can be a sitter for clinics. You can, just basically apply. I mean, people are really getting fascinated with integration coaching and they're just like, okay. And they just bring people on staff. So you could be one of their coordinators. You could be one of their sitters. You could be working their PR or marketing department, but you can get involved with these like psychedelic clinics on a lot of different levels. Their ketamine centers are just going up everywhere. And there's a lot of different transformational wellness clinics going up everywhere. So you can apply at those clinics. A lot of them know Being True to You now. We have huge corporations that just send their employees to Being True to You. They say, oh, you want to get a job? Go to Being True to You. We don't even know them. We just start hearing their name. We call them. We say, thank you. And they don't even know us, but they just hear about us. So we're like, thank you for mandating our training for your employment. If you want to know more about it, we'll tell you. It's funny. And then people are starting their own businesses. People are getting involved on local levels. People are working for profits, nonprofits, just kind of everything. I feel like we get trainees from literally every profession, and they're going back into their profession and they're able to say, okay, how can I help? And we teach them how to look at your unique positioning. Everyone has a unique positioning and everyone can touch an audience in a different way. Like I could reach an audience different than you could, Lana, different than the people watching us. We all have different background experiences. And so we teach people how to sit with that and say, okay, what is my specialty? What is my positioning? How can I help the world in a way that no one else can? And how can I wrap a business model around that? Yeah, I would say between coaching and sitting and supporting and just there's so many roles. There's no limit to what you can do.
Yeah, even if you don't become a coach and work one-on-one with people or in a coaching role, like having the skills of a coach is so valuable for your professional life, your personal life. It's so good to have these skills. So my cohort is starting in a couple weeks. Can you share with the listeners if they want to join in, how they can learn more, how much the program costs? And I know we have a promo code for listeners that we can share as well.
Yeah, so we start every March and September. We'll be starting early March. So go to beingtruetoyou.com is our website. You can reach out to us via email at coaching@beingtruetoyou.com. You can reach out to our phone number at 833-379-0070. We'll put all that information in the description below. And yes, we're doing a special discount of $250 off for Lana's listeners only. Thank you so much, Lana. So we'll do $250 off, the total price of $3,900. So we have kept our training at that price for many years. We are the first training that has ever come to market. We have trained more people than anyone else I know of in the world. There's a couple other trainings out there, but they're pretty niche in terms of what they're doing, where ours is going to be full spectrum, all encompassing. And some of those brand new trainings are charging like $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000, which is fine. But we have kept ours at a really affordable price, and we won't be able to forever. We will be raising it. But it's $3,900. We take monthly payments, so you can pay over 3 or 4 months. And if you need something different, just give us a call. Reach out to us. Tell us who you are, what you're looking for, what you're hoping to get out of the training. We're very honest and transparent with you, so we will help you identify if this is the right training for you and if it can help you to achieve the results and the goals that you want through this process and make it possible for you to come in the training. Yeah, reach out to us soon. We will be starting the March cohort in just another week. We take people up to 3 weeks after we start. You have a month. You may have a month to jump in. Sooner the better.
Yeah, I'm glad we could get this out at least a little bit before. Yeah, just on the pricing, I so appreciate how accessible, like it's still a chunk of change, of course, but in comparison to a lot of programs out there, it's really accessible. And I think that says a lot. That says a lot about the organization and your intention. Is there anything else you would like to share with the listeners before I let you go?
Just that I was listening to some of your podcasts before I come on, Lana, and I really appreciate what you're putting out. I think it's very genuine. I think it's very sincere. I definitely see the resonation between the two of us just because you're actually doing the work, you're reporting on the work, and focusing on the integration of it. There is a lot of amazing things out there, from psychedelic therapies and other transformational tools, and people that are really helpful and create these amazing programs that can just work wonders in your life. But really at the base of it, it's really the integration work and looking within and taking responsibility for the life that we have, whether it was our fault or not, whatever it is, we have to own it, take responsibility for it, and change it. Anything is possible. The sky's the limit in the human experience. The human experience is very precious. I do not believe that we are just a blimp or a particle of dust in the universe and that our lives don't matter. I think our lives, and this life in particular, matters very much. Every single thing that we think and do and how we act and how we show up and the lessons that we learn, I think all of it is very important. And I think it's important that we hold each other up, that we encourage each other, that we inspire each other, that we're there for each other, that we're not tearing each other down, that we're really helping everyone be the best that they can be. And we're being that example, because this is the greatest time that I could ever imagine to be alive. This is like this time of great awakening, and people really are going to sink or swim. And I think we need to team up together and help each other. We may have some hard times coming. We've seen a lot of tests and tribulations already, and things could get more difficult. But I believe that if we stick together and we stay in our heart and we're honest with each other, that we can make a huge difference in this country and in other countries and in the lives of individuals everywhere. So I love what you're doing, Lana. I hope people continue to listen to your podcast and to spread what you're doing. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that you had me on today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so touched. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you, get to know you. And I'm so excited to continue getting to know you and your work, truly. Yeah.
I'm so excited for you to come to the training. Again. It's going to be such an experience.
Yes. So excited. I'm gearing up for it. All right. Thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you again, Deanne, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to and supporting the show. To stay in touch, sign up for my mailing list, which can be found in the show notes or on modernpsychedelics.net. If this episode sparked something within, please let me know by leaving a review of the Modern Psychedelics podcast on Apple and Spotify. This really helps to share these messages with those who need them, which is the whole reason why I do what I do. And if you haven't already, come join the ongoing conversation over on Instagram with other beautiful souls. We have an incredible and conscious community over at the handle Modern Psychedelics. And don't forget that the work begins after you come back down to earth. And I'm standing shoulder to shoulder, doing it with you. This episode is produced in collaboration with Film with Integrity. They are a values-forward production studio providing end-to-end production from concept to content. They do event video, documentary series, commercial and marketing videos, and of course, podcast production. If you are working on a project that deserves quality of production and content without sacrificing heart and soul, visit filmwithintegrity.com to check out their beautiful work and get in touch with their team.